our friends from the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is grateful to the Ministry of Information, as always, under the able leadership of its Minister, Honorable Kojo Ponkroma, for putting this platform together this morning to enable us engage the Ghanaian public on the first mining lease signed for the exploitation of lithium in our country. We are grateful. We also thank you, the media, for always responding to our invitation and for helping us reach the Ghanaian people wherever they may be on such matters of national importance. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you will recall that at a brief ceremony at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources on Thursday, 19th October 2023, I signed on behalf of the President of the Republic the first mining lease for the exploitation of lithium in our country. This followed Cabinet's approval of a policy for the exploitation and management of green minerals in our country and extensive negotiations spanning several months between government and Barari DV Limited, a subsidiary of Atlantic Lithium Limited, which President Akufo-Addo had to, on some occasions, personally intervene. Since this act, there has been some commentary on the mining lease under reference, with several people and institutions sharing their opinion on the transaction. Government welcomes the extraordinary public interest and scrutiny of this mining lease, as it is the surest way of ensuring that the mineral resources of our country are utilized for the benefit of the Ghanaian people, as dictated by our national constitution. We, however, note that much of the commentary ignore the actual terms of the lease, which I am told is available on the website of the Minerals Commission. On 27th October 2023, I issued a 26-point press release detailing the processes leading to the grant of the mining lease and giving highlights of the lease, which obviously differs from all previous mining leases granted for the exploitation of any mineral in our country. This is easily verifiable from a cursory examination of the mining lease under reference. Regrettably, some public commentary on the matter continues to ignore all these details. In recognition of our constitutional duty to manage the natural resources of the country for the benefit of the Ghanaian people, who are the true owners of these resources, therefore, and in accordance with the highest standards of transparency and integrity, we have called this press conference to provide once again detailed information to the Ghanaian people on the processes leading to the signing of the mining lease, as well as details of the lease that makes it different from all previous mining leases. And if I should emphasize, and most importantly, how this mining lease benefits our nation. This will be done by the Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission. But distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before I invite the Chief Executive Officer to address us, kindly indulge me to clarify a few issues. Firstly, Barari DV Limited, the company granted the mining lease for the exploitation of lithium in Ewoya, has been undertaking exploration for almost a decade in the central region of Ghana. From when they were first granted a recognizance license in August 2012, which was subsequently converted to a prospecting license in March 2018 for 3 years, and renewed for 3 additional years in July 2021, Barari DV Limited has been engaged in reconnaissance, exploration, and prospecting for all these years. As I say, let me emphasize, from August 2012. When they reported commercial find of lithium government took a decision not to treat this mineral in the same manner in which others had been treated in the past. We therefore decided to make a policy for the exploitation and management of lithium and other green minerals of our country before any form of negotiations will commence. To make the development of the policy more participatory, on 13 July 2022, I presented to Parliament, on behalf of government, a statement setting out the general framework of the proposed policy for the development, management, and exploitation of the green minerals in our country. Following input from honorable members of Parliament and other stakeholders, a policy was developed by the ministry and submitted to Cabinet, which, after intense scrutiny, critique, and inputs, approved a reviewed policy on 27 July 2023. The approved policy includes provisions for an increase in the royalties rate for green minerals, an increase in state and Ghanaian participation in all green mineral operations to a minimum of 30%, just like Geodec and Gisdec, just like bauxite and iron ore, to a minimum of 30%. An enhanced local content and local participation, including listing on the Ghana Stock Exchange, and value addition and beneficiation for all green minerals in our country. It was based on this policy that we entered into negotiations with the company, leading to the signing of the mining lease. Ladies and gentlemen, respectfully, let me forcefully state that this lease differs from all previous mining leases in many respects, and the Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission will shortly, as I say, give you details to support this claim. Suffice for me to point out that it is the first time in the history of our country that we have successfully negotiated for 10% royalties for any mineral, which is one of the highest for exploitation of any mineral across the world. If you indulge me, I'll repeat that. I say it is the first time in the history of our country that we have successfully negotiated for 10% royalties for any mineral, which is one of the highest for exploitation of any mineral across the globe. We have already secured a 19% state participation in this mining company, 19%, with a requirement to scale it up to a minimum of 30% Ghanaian participation through listing on the Ghana Stock Exchange for shares to be made available to Ghanaians and Ghanaian entities. What this simply will mean is that when it is all over, Barari DV Limited, the holder of this mineral right of lithium, Ghanaian and state participation will be 30%. Foreign participation will be a maximum of 70%, but Ghanaian participation will be a minimum of 30%. This has never happened in the history of our country in respect of any mineral. Never. Ladies and gentlemen, and for the first time in the history of our country, a mining lease contains provisions for the establishment of a refinery, that is value addition and beneficiation. This mining lease has provision which insists that a refinery will be established here in Ghana for processing of this lithium, this mineral. This has never happened. This is the first time. There's been the issue of ratification of the mining lease, and there's been a lot of commentary on that. And it's been raised by several people. And if you allow me, I want to deal with that briefly. This has never been lost on us, as this is expressly provided for in the mining lease granted to Barari DV Limited. Specifically, Clause 1E of the lease states, and I quote, "The mining lease is subject to ratification by Parliament in accordance with Article 2681 of the Constitution and Section 5(4) of Act 703." And it continues, "Upon execution of this mining lease, the minister shall cause the mining lease to be laid in Parliament for ratification," end quote. By the very terms of the lease, therefore, ratification by Parliament is a condition precedent. And as the Supreme Court explained in the Eston Kibi case, an unratified mining lease confers no enforceable rights, and government has always been mindful of this decision. The mining lease in question will be laid before Parliament for ratification. That is non-negotiable. But before such agreements can be laid before Parliament, it must go through a number of processes, including securing Cabinet approval. The processes are ongoing, and once completed, the agreement will be laid before Parliament for consideration and hopefully ratification. There have also been calls to grant mining leases through a tender process, and I want to deal with that as well. As we explained in our earlier press release, international best practice requires that where a company undertakes exploration and makes a commercial find for minerals, the company is entitled to a right of first refusal to the grant of a mining lease, subject to regulatory compliance. This international best practice is given legal backing by Section 39(2) of the Minerals and Mining Act 2006 Act 703. Needless to point out that the use of the tender process is only feasible where there already exists geological statistics and the state is looking for partners to go straight into mining. If I may explain this, if the state spends its own hard money to conduct the exploration and makes a find, a commercial find, then if the state wants partners to go into mining, then you go through the tender processes. But where a private company comes in to invest and makes a commercial find, by law and by international best practices, the company has a legal right of first refusal. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also indicate that Regulation 2581 of the Minerals and Mining Licensing Regulations 2012 LI 2176, which deals with the grant of mineral rights by tender, gives these instances under which such process may be used, and they are: 1, where the Minerals Commission determines that there exists sufficient mineral information in respect of the area concerned; 2, where the Republic has carried out prior mineral exploration in respect of the area concerned; or 3, where an area becomes available through surrender, revocation, or termination, and 2 or more applications are recorded in the priority register within the 7 days of that area becoming vacant. End quote. In all these circumstances, the state will have enough geological data generated through its own exploration, or where a holder of a mineral right surrenders his interest, or the right is otherwise revoked or terminated. But there is enough statistics generated by a private company that has carried out exploration at great cost, then that entity is by virtue of Section 39(2) of Act 703 entitled to the grant of a mineral right subject to regulatory compliance, in which case the tender system cannot be legally tenable. The historical lack of resources to undertake exploration has thus meant that we have had to depend on private companies to undertake exploration of most of our minerals, which then entitles them to the grant of mining leases without going through the tender process. And as I say, Barari DV Limited got their first recognizance license as far back as August 2012. They established that legal right as far back as August 2012. And in any event, ladies and gentlemen, the private sector, both foreign and Ghanaian, participation is in accord with best international practice, and this can be verified from several mining countries across the world. It is the private sector that normally engages in exploration. There have also been calls for the establishment of a Ghana lithium company to undertake lithium mining and develop the value chain of the mineral from lithium mining to battery production. And I would like to deal with this too. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, it will be recalled that the policy statement presented to Parliament last year considered the option of establishing an entity along the lines of the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation, GIADEC, and the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, GISDEC. However, the volumes of the mineral we have currently and our quest to ensure optimal benefit for the exploitation of this mineral meant that that option was not feasible for several considerations. Firstly, globally, only China has an end-to-end lithium value chain. This is why we have instituted in this transaction the retention of a significant part of the value chain, which we will work systematically to eventually construct here in our country the full value chain for lithium. But as we have said, we will not export lithium in its raw form. Everything we have done in respect of this transaction and all the measures we have put in place in respect of this particular transaction will mean that Ghana's lithium resources will not be exported in their raw state. That is why the mining lease includes provisions for the establishment of a refinery and the provision of the use of other linkages to support local industries in Ghana. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in everything we have done with this mining lease, in all humility and modesty, the interest of the Ghanaian people has been paramount. It has been months of thorough negotiations and hard work in respect of this transaction. Nothing has been agreed to casually. Everything has been thought through and everything has been worked out and all the options have been considered. And what we've arrived at is in the ultimate interest of the good people of Ghana. The government of President Akufo-Addo remains committed to the prudent, effective, and efficient management of the natural resources of our country, which have been entrusted to us, and doing so in the spirit of transparency, integrity, candor, and utmost good faith for the benefit of our nation. We remain focused on this goal and call on you all, nationals and residents of our country, to support government in this quest. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I now invite the Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission, Mr. Martin Aisi, to present.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click on the bell for more updates.